එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50 අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, state of recovery. 12 people leave hospitals, boosting COVID-19 recovery rate. Liberating the stranded. First flight to repatriate Sri Lankan students in the UK sets off. PM's wrath. Prime Minister blasts the opposition for politicking in the midst of COVID-19 crisis. Turning wheels. Another suspect linked to last year's Easter Sunday terror attacks arrested. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Sunday, the 3rd of May 2020.
හැටනමයි අනුහතට SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamke Kanayaka. Now, it is just under 8 weeks since the detection of the first Sri Lankan COVID-19 patient. So far, Sri Lanka has recorded 708 confirmed infections, with 6 more being added to the tally today. On the positive side of things, health authorities discharged 12 people from hospitals today, giving the all clear from the virus, increasing the number of recoveries to 184. Meanwhile, Commander of the Army, Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva, announced that the state of isolation in certain areas are lifted due to receding levels of threat.
On the 9th of March, Sri Lanka's first patient to show symptoms of COVID-19 was admitted to hospital, and 2 days later he tested positive for the virus. Ever since, the number of infected in the country has steadily risen, with the current tally at over 700. The first 100 cases of COVID-19 were reported within a span of 14 days. It took 18 days for the second 100 positive infections to be detected. The third 100 infections, however, were detected within just 9 days. From then on, the speed of which positive COVID-19 infections were detected in Sri Lanka accelerated. The fourth set of 100 infections were reported within a period of just 4 days. And then it only took 2 days for another 100 coronavirus cases to be confirmed. The sixth set of 100 infections was very much similar, with that too only taking just 2 days. After hitting the 600 patient mark, the rate of infection took a slight dip. The next 100 COVID-19 positive cases were spread across 5 days. Despite the number of confirmed cases increasing, there were positive news to be had. COVID-19 patients continued to make full recoveries. 10 such people headed home yesterday, with 12 more walking out of hospitals today. That puts Sri Lanka's overall coronavirus recoveries at 184. The total number of confirmed COVID-19 infections in the country now stands at 708, with 519 of them being active cases. To large parts of the day yesterday, no fresh cases were recorded, but with a couple hours before the day came to a close, 12 infections were reported. What's more, 3 more cases were reported this morning. Among the combined 15 patients, 12 are naval personnel and the remaining 3 are people who had come into contact with them. In another development, final rites of the duo who died at the quarantine facility set up at the Air Force Base in Mullaitivu were performed yesterday. They were part of the group of mendicants who were sent for quarantine from Colombo and had died of ill health. The final rites were conducted in a forest area of Kanikade in Mulliyaveli due to protests by locals who objected to the use of a Hindu cemetery in Kumarapuram. Meanwhile, the state of isolation in the areas of Suduvella in Maradana, Akurana, Beruwala, Pannila and China Fort were lifted today. The move was made due to reports of COVID-19 patients not being detected from these areas during the recent days. Residents in area of Telembugahavatta of Akurana in Kandy came out from their state of isolation as there were no cases reported from the area in recent past. The army took steps to isolate the area from the 29th of March after detecting 6 COVID-19 patients who were exposed to the first COVID-19 patient from the area. Both Pannila and China Fort in Beruwala were isolated since the 14th of April due to increasing numbers of COVID-19 infections. Pannila and China Fort are home to 14,835 persons from 5 Gramaniladari divisions. With no cases of COVID-19 being recorded from those areas, the army took measures to remove the restrictions put in place.
මේ අනුව එම ප්‍රදේශ තවදුරටත් අනෙකුත් ප්‍රදේශ හා සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි ක්‍රියා සිදුවීමට කටයුතු කරනු ලබනවා. අද දිනේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා යුද හමුදාවේ නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානයකින් තම නිරෝධායන කටයුතු නිමවීම සහ PCR පරීක්ෂණ කිරීමෙන් අනතුරුව 11 දෙනෙකු තම නිවෙස් වෙත යැවීම සඳහා නිදහස් කර යවනු ලැබුවා. මේ අනුව ශ්‍රී ලංකා ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාව විසින් මේ දක්වා නිරෝධායන කළපු 4917 දෙනෙකු තම නිරෝධායන කටයුතු නිමවී තම නිවෙස් බලා ගොස් තිබෙනවා. මේ දක්වා ශ්‍රී ලංකා නාවික හමුදාවේ වීරෝදාර රණවිරුවන් සහ ඔවුන්ගේ පවුල්වල ආසාදෙන වූ අයවලුන් ඇසුරු කරපු සහ ඒ ඥාතීන් 1023 දෙනෙකු මෙවන විට ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාව විසින් පවත්වාගෙන යනු ලබන නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානවල නිරෝධායන වෙමින් පවතිනවා. මේ අනුව අද දින වන විට නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථාන 36ක් තුල 4635 දෙනෙකු තවදුරටත් නිරෝධායන වෙමින් පවතිනවා.
Restrictions put in place for the area of Suduwalla in Maradana too were lifted today due to infections not being detected from the area. Barring entry and exit, Imamul Aruz Mawata in Suduwalla was closed from the 1st of April, with the third victim to perish from the coronavirus being from the area. The deceased wife, daughter, son-in-law and 2 grandchildren also contracted the virus, and 4 among them have since recovered. Also, the residents who successfully completed the quarantine process were given a certificate as proof. Meanwhile, the state of isolation in the areas of Nagalagam Vedia and Bandaranaika Mawata in Kesalvattu of Colombo, as well as Dabari Mawata of Narayanpeta, however, are yet to be lifted.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Now, the curfew in 21 districts except Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Putlam will be temporarily relaxed at 5 a.m. tomorrow. With that being the case, police request people to stay indoors unless there are any pressing needs to venture outside. Furthermore, police also urge those in self-quarantine to observe the process to the letter, warning that venturing outside is a punishable offence.
The curfew in 21 districts except Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Putlam will be lifted at 5 a.m. tomorrow, providing a 15-hour window of free movement to the people. The curfew, however, will be reimposed on the same day at 8 p.m. in the relevant districts. As per the President's Media Division's communique, the curfew in those 21 districts come into effect at 8 p.m. and be lifted at 5 a.m. the next day on a daily basis until Wednesday, the 6th of May. Since the curfew is brought into effect once more at 8 p.m. on the 6th, an island-wide curfew will prevail until the 5 a.m. on Monday, the 11th of May. On the 11th, curfew regulations are set to be relaxed, especially in the 4 high-risk districts of Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Putlam to facilitate state and private sector operations and normal civilian life. In the meantime, today brings up the 45th consecutive day of curfew since it was first enforced on the 20th of March to curb the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. The police and Tri-Forces personnel as usual continued to crack down on people who violate the curfew, misuse curfew passes and those who ignore safety protocols. During the 45 days of curfew, 45,329 people have been arrested, with 11,765 vehicles seized.
දැන් හෙට දිනේ උදෑසන 5ට බස්නාහිර පළාත ඒ වගේම පුත්තලම දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ ඇරෙන්නට අනිකුත් ප්‍රදේශවල නිරෝධායන ඇඳිරි නීතිය පැය 15ක කාලයකට ලිහිල් කරනු ලබනවා. ඇඳිරි නීතිය යම් ප්‍රදේශයක ඉවත් වුණත් ලිහිල් වුණත් ඒ ලිහිල් වෙන කාලය තුල ඒ ප්‍රදේශයේ යම් නිවසක් නිරෝධායනයට ලක් කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ නිරෝධායනයට ලක් කර තිබෙන නිවෙස්වල අයට පිටතට පැමිණීමට හැකියාවක් නැහැ. පැමිණියොත් ඒ නිරෝධායන රීතීන් වලට පටහැනිව කටයුතු කිරීමක් වගේම අත්අඩංගුවට ගත හැකි වරදක් වෙනවා. අවුරුදු 2ක සිරදඬුවම් නියම කළ හැකි වරදක් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම නිරෝධායන ඇඳිරි නීතිය ඉවත් කරන ප්‍රදේශවල ජනතාවගෙන් අපි ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා රැකියා කරන අයට ඒ රැකියාවල නිරත වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ස්වයං රැකියා කරන අයට ඒ වගේම කෘෂිකාර්මාන්තයේ යෙදෙන අයට ඒ රැකියාවල නිරත වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අනෙක් සියලු දෙනාගෙන් අපි ආයාචනය කරනවා නිවසේ රැඳී සිටින ඔබට ආහාර හෝ ඖෂධ පිළිබඳ අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැත්නම් නිකරුණේ නගරයට එන්නට එහෙම නැත්නම් පාරවල් වල ගමන් කරන්නට එපා.
In the meantime, Chairman of the Akuressa Pradeshya Sabha Munidasa Gamage and 4 other persons were arrested by the police near the Mausa Kale police checkpoint in Muskelia. Reportedly, the Pradeshya Sabha chairman and his associates had been proceeding on a lorry towards Sripada, also known as Adams Peak. Our correspondent said that none of the travellers had possessed a valid curfew pass at the time they were being inspected by police at the checkpoint. Accordingly, the 5 travellers, including the Pradeshya Sabha chairman, were arrested and their belongings found in the lorry were also seized. It has been also reported that the lorry used by the group in question belongs to the Akuressa Pradeshya Sabha. The suspects are to be produced before the Hatton Magistrates Court tomorrow.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority has removed the maximum retail price imposed on Mysore dal and canned fish. The authority on the 17th of March set a maximum retail price of 65 rupees for a kilogram of Mysore dal and 100 rupees for 425 grams of canned fish as a concession to the public in face of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the meantime, postal unions have made a U-turn in their decision to engage in trade union action.
The postal unions have agreed to call off the strike which was set to be worked off tomorrow, calling for several demands. The change of heart came following a discussion between Minister Bandula Gunawardena and leaders of postal trade unions. Meanwhile, a flight from the Netherlands carrying 230 crew members required for a ship which is docked at the Galle harbour landed at the Mattal International Airport today. Steps were taken to disinfect and transport the passengers to the Galle harbour. According to airport officials, another 53 passengers aboard the ship are set to leave for Amsterdam today. In the meantime, a situation of unrest erupted in the northern Gramaneladari division of the Birgama area, with locals alleging that the anomalies in the list used in the distribution of the 5,000 rupee government relief allowance. They say that this has resulted in some residents experiencing delays in receiving the allowance. Remonstrating residents dispersed after the officer in charge of the Birgama police pledged to provide the allowance to all residents within the next 2 days. Meanwhile, in Atampitia, 82-year-old K.A. Subasena has donated the 5,000 rupee government relief allowance he received to the COVID-19 Health and Social Security Fund set up by the President.
Sri Lankan Airlines says that it will operate 4 special flights from today to operate, or more like repatriate, Sri Lankan students stranded overseas due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Now, the carrier stated that students stuck in the United Kingdom and Australia will be brought back to Sri Lanka through these missions. A charter flight was scheduled for London today to repatriate a batch of Sri Lankan students, while 2 more flights will operate to repatriate rest of the students in London. Further, a charter flight from Australia will arrive in the country with Sri Lankan students on the 8th of May, and a Sri Lankan Airlines charter flight left for Heathrow Airport in London from the Bandaranaike International Airport this morning. The flight is scheduled to return tomorrow morning with 250 Sri Lankan students. AdaDerana's relief program targeting those who are affected by the curfew put in place to control the spread of the coronavirus was worked off for the 39th day.
AdaDerana jointly conducted a program with Dialogue to provide essential food items to people affected by the ongoing curfew in the country. Accordingly, more than 50,000 parcels of dry rations were distributed to temples, churches, mosques, children's and elder homes throughout the country. AdaDerana, along with LOLC, also launched a project to provide medical equipment to hospitals which treat patients infected with COVID-19. As such, medical equipment was donated to Patiklo Teaching Hospital last Friday. Furthermore, medical equipment was also donated to the Akurana Regional Hospital yesterday. In the meantime, the inauguration ceremony of the AdaDerana home gardening program was worked off at Derana head office under the patronage of Chairman of the Derana Media Network Dilip Jayavira, Deputy Chairman Laksiri Wickramagie and COO Madhava Madavala. Agronomy consultants joined hands with AdaDerana to provide free seeds and agricultural consultations to home gardeners.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today accused the opposition of contriving to sabotage the government's anti-coronavirus campaign in order to bring the government into disrepute before the election. He also accused them of political manoeuvring over their demand of reconvening the dissolved parliament. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today brushed aside opposition's demand of the reconvening of the dissolved parliament, where they say that after the 30th of April, the President has no legal right to allocate funds for the maintenance of government services without the approval of the old parliament. The Premier adds the opposition has even issued a threat to the effect that unless the parliament is reconvened, the President and all in the government run the risk of loss of civic rights and the confiscation of property. He reminds that Parliament was dissolved at the beginning of March when there was no coronavirus patients in the country, and the Election Commission has already postponed the election until the 20th of June, with the Commission also announcing that the election could be postponed further depending on the advice of the medical authorities. The PM highlights that the opposition's concern is that if the election is held in a situation where the anti-coronavirus campaign in Sri Lanka has shown much better results than in most other countries, they would be placed at a serious disadvantage. Hence, he says that the opposition's present efforts are aimed at getting the old parliament reconvened and using their majority in parliament to block government finances, thereby sabotaging the anti-coronavirus campaign in order to bring the government into disrepute before the election. Furthermore, the Prime Minister calls the opposition's claim that the previous government had passed a vote on account up to the 30th of April and that therefore, after this date, the President has no authority to allocate funds for any purpose as an absurd argument. The PM says that under Article 150, Section 3 of the Constitution, the President has complete authority to allocate funds for any purpose for which funds had not been allocated by Parliament. Touching on the opposition allegation that the President is not reconvening Parliament with the ulterior motive of misusing funds coming in from abroad for the anti-coronavirus campaign, the PM says that all funds received by the government go to the Treasury via the central bank system. He says, quote, "There are procedures that have to be followed in spending this money. Funds in the Treasury cannot be spent in the manner that Yahapalana ministers spent the money of the Central Cultural Fund," unquote. The Premier notes that at this moment, politics should be set aside and concentrate on controlling the coronavirus outbreak and restoring normalcy to the lives of the people. He also called on the people to extend their fullest cooperation to heroic individuals in the health and security sector who are at the forefront of the battle against the pandemic, enabling them to fulfill their duties effectively. Now, at a time where the Samaga Janabalawege and the JVP announced their non-participation, the United National Party too announced today that they will not be attending the meeting chaired by the Prime Minister.
Following the prevailing situation in the country, the Prime Minister has invited former members of Parliament for a special meeting tomorrow to raise awareness about the current situation in the country and the steps to be taken with regard to COVID-19. However, a group of former MPs who are contesting under the Samagi Janabalawege that they will not be participating in the meeting. JVP too announced their refusal to participate in the meeting convened by the Prime Minister. In the meantime, General Secretary of the UNP Akhila Viraj Karyavasam, who confirmed their participation to the meeting yesterday, later announced that they would not attend. The party is of the view that due to former ministers and other active political leaders not being invited for the meeting, a meaningful conversation would not be possible. Releasing a statement, UNP is of the stance that political preferences should be put aside in the face of a national crisis, such as COVID-19. The UNP also stated it has decided to boycott the meeting as the Rajapaksa regime seems focused on party politics at a time when national unity is needed the most. However, the letter also states that the United National Party is ready to support the government's efforts in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused instability in the country.
We will see you shortly after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Sri Lanka College of Microbiologists say that they are not recommending the use of decontamination chambers and spraying individuals with chemical disinfectants to minimize the COVID-19 virus. They say that these chambers contain various agents to spray on people, including alcohol, chlorine compounds, ozonated water, soapy water, and ultraviolet radiation.
Directing attention to the World Health Organization's view on the use of decontamination chambers, Sri Lanka College of Microbiologists says that they do not recommend it. It says, quote, "We strongly advise that spraying of individuals or groups is not recommended under any circumstances. Spraying an individual or group with chemical disinfectants or detergents is physically and psychologically harmful and does not limit the spread of COVID-19. Even if a person is infected with the COVID-19 virus, spraying the external part of the body does not kill the virus inside the body and may worsen the clinical condition of the individual," unquote. For alcohol or other disinfectants to be effective, it says that they need to be present in adequate amount for a given period of time, and the nature of chambers does not sufficiently provide this. Quoting US Food and Drug Administration, it added that for ozone to be effective in destroying harmful bacteria, it must be present at a concentration above levels considered safe for humans. Given the main mode of transmission of COVID-19 is by contaminated hands touching the face, what needs to be done is to sanitize hands rather than try to sanitize the whole body in order to prevent transmission of this virus. The statement says the action of alcohol and other chemical disinfectants in these chambers is unlikely to achieve this function. Further, there is a significant fire hazard and there is wastage of alcohol and other disinfectants in large quantities when used inside these chambers. In addition, these chemical disinfectants can have various adverse effects on humans. In particular, spraying of chlorine on individuals can lead to irritation of eyes and skin, bronchospasm due to inhalation, and potential gastrointestinal effects such as nausea and vomiting. Inhaled ozone can damage the lungs, may worsen chronic respiratory diseases like asthma, and compromise the ability of the body to fight respiratory infections. Excessive exposure to UV light may put a user at risk of eye injury, skin burns, or even an increased risk of skin cancer. To date, the FDA has not authorized any products using ozone gas or ultraviolet light, even to clean, disinfect, or sanitize inanimate objects.
Now, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa engaged in religious observances last evening at the Jayashree Ma Bodhi in Anuradhapura, invoking blessings on the country and its people. Called on the chief incumbent of the Atamasthana, Venerable Dr. Pallegama Sirinivasa Thera. He also engaged in religious observances at the Ruwanvelisaya premises this morning. The President also called on the chief incumbent of the Mirisavatiya Temple, Venerable Italavatnuwave Jnanatilaka Thera, and chief incumbent of the Sambuddha Jayanti Temple, Venerable Nugatenne Panyananda Thera. An individual linked to last year's Easter Sunday terror attacks has been arrested in Kalpitiya by the police. The suspect has been identified to be a trustee of an organization where ringleader of the attack, Zaran Hashim, had conducted lectures. Reportedly, the two sons of Muhammad Ibrahim had also conducted lectures at the organization. The organization had operated in Asgarnagar in Madurankulya. Police spokesperson SP Jaliya Senaratne said that the Criminal Investigation Department will be taking action to raid the organization in question. Now, moving on with other stories, an inmate of the Mahara prison has died in an attempt to escape from prison. Reportedly, 7 inmates had made an escape attempt at the Mahara prison at around 3 a.m. today. They had attempted to escape using rope and bed sheets. However, 1 inmate had met with an accident which resulted in his death. Police said that the remaining 6 inmates have been recaptured. 2 prison guards, 2 have sustained injuries in the course of the events. Fitch Ratings has downgraded Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation Limited's Insurer Financial Strength rating to B from B+. The outlook is negative and Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation's National Insurer Financial Strength rating has not been covered in the review. In downgrading Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation Limited's Insurer Financial Strength rating to B from B+, Fitch Ratings says that the downgrade reflects the rising pressures in the operating environment and in the insurer's business profile, as well as heightened investment and asset risks, all of which are caused mainly by the deterioration in the sovereign's credit profile. It added that the negative outlook on SLIC reflects the agency's expectations of further weakening in the insurance investment-related risks because of its sizable exposure to the sovereign-related assets and any near-term volatility in earnings caused by the pandemic. We will be back after this short break. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the parents of murdered US journalist Daniel Pearl have filed an appeal with Pakistan's Supreme Court to reverse a ruling overturning the convictions of 4 men in the case. Pearl was kidnapped and beheaded in 2002 while investigating Islamist militants in Karachi. Last month, a court in Karachi overturned the death sentence of the man convicted of masterminding the killing and acquitted 3 others. Pearl was the Wall Street Journal's Asia bureau chief when he was abducted and killed, and a graphic video of his killing was sent to the US consulate a month later. Now, some countries which experienced the severe strains of the coronavirus pandemic have taken measures to ease lockdown restrictions with the aim of returning civilian life to normalcy. In Singapore, where the virus infections have passed 10,000, has also taken steps to restart their manufacturing sector.
South Korean Prime Minister Chung Si-kyun said that the government will further relax social distancing rules starting on the 6th of May, allowing a phased reopening of businesses as the nation has largely managed to bring the coronavirus outbreak under control. He further stated that the government will allow businesses to resume at facilities in phases that had remained closed up until now, and also allow gatherings and events to take place, assuming they follow disinfection guidelines. 2 COVID-19 deaths, however, were reported from South Korea yesterday. Elsewhere, Singapore also plans to ramp up its manufacturing activities, with the city-state looking to restart its economy as coronavirus curbs start to ease over the next few weeks. Sectors that are intertwined with the global supply chain, such as biopharmaceutical and petrochemicals, as well as precision manufacturing, will be among priority sectors. Only about 17% of Singapore's labour force is currently working on site to maintain essential services and support for global production chains and connectivity. In Europe, Prime Minister of Spain Pedro Sanchez says that the use of masks on public transport would be compulsory from tomorrow as the country begins to ease lockdown restrictions. Sanchez also announced his government would approve a $17.57 billion reconstruction fund to help regional authorities deal with the social and economic damage from the coronavirus. Spanish people hurried out of their homes allowed to exercise outdoors for the first time in 7 weeks as the government began easing tough coronavirus restrictions. Israel reopened some schools today, but the bid to edge back to normalcy as coronavirus concerns ease was boycotted by several municipalities and many parents who cited poor government preparation. Kitted with masks and hand cleaners, the first 3 grades of elementary school and the last 2 grades of high school were allowed back, redistributing in classes capped at 15 pupils to enforce social distancing. Australia's National Surveillance Agency is taking part in the global race to halt the spread of COVID-19 by testing 2 potential vaccines on animals to find a safe and effective way to protect humans from the deadly virus. The Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organisation, or CSIRO, is using animals to test 2 potential vaccines, one from the UK and one from the US. There is a greater urgency to find a vaccine for COVID-19 considering its rapid spread around the world and the rising death toll. Thus, some drugs are already being tested in controlled human trials. Researchers believe it's possible that at least one of the dozens of projects taking place around the world will lead to a vaccine being developed by the early part of next year. In the meantime, forces of both US and India took to the skies to thank the country's healthcare workers and emergency services battling the coronavirus pandemic.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.